Wie wäre es, weniger Zeit mit dem Einkauf zu verbringen und dafür mehr Zeit für deine Lieblingspodcasts zu haben? Mit dem Rewe Abholservice geht das. Bestell deinen Einkauf einfach online und hol ihn bequem und fertig gepackt im Markt ab. Natürlich ohne Mindestbestellwert. So bleibt dir mehr Zeit für die nächste Podcast-Folge oder deine Lieblingstracks. Jetzt ausprobieren auf rewe.de/shop oder in der Rewe-App. Dein Rewe Abholservice. Online bestellen, im Markt abholen.
10 years from today, Lisa Schneider will trade in her office job to become the leader of a pack of dogs. As the owner of her own dog rescue, that is. A second act made possible by the reskilling courses Lisa's taking now with AARP to help make sure her income lives as long as she does. And she can finally run with the big dogs. And the small dogs, who just think they're big dogs. That's why the younger you are, the more you need AARP. Learn more at aarp.org/skills.
Hey, this is William Tincup, Ryan Leary. You are listening and watching Practitioner Corner. Mandy's with us today. We're going to learn all about her career and some of the lessons learned and all that type of stuff. So, Ryan, how are you doing today?
I am fantastic. This is probably a question for Mandy, but when you say we're going to learn all about Mandy's career, if that were me, I'd be like, I'd get nervous. Like, me? Like, why me?
Well, I'm using all very like, not literally. It's more figuratively, because you can't learn all.
No,
it's more of a figurative.
I know. No, but
splash.
I'm doing good, man. You know what? It's unquestionably the hottest it's ever been in Philadelphia. We are burning up. We're going to top. We've probably topped out over 100 already today.
Come on down to Texas. Come on down.
I'm not coming down to Texas. Not unless I'm on the water, on a boat somewhere.
And Mandy's in San Diego, so she doesn't have to deal with this. She's got perfect weather year round.
We're actually in the middle of a heat advisory, but because I'm competing against Texas and Philadelphia, I'm going to zip my lip on that one.
Is it like 75? Like, what is it?
So
No.
I'm based in Escondido, which is North County, San Diego, and it's inland. We can top out around 103, 105.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm still going to respectfully bow out of this one. I'll give that prize to you.
But California is going through extreme heat.
It is.
All of California, all of it. It is. It's kind of
in like
scary.
5 years,
actually.
you're going to be in the ocean, so you're good.
We're just going to all wind up at the coast in some way, shape, or form, right?
It's going to be nice and cool in a couple of years.
That's why you don't want to buy property on the coast. You want to buy it a couple back.
You'll be waterfront in 5 years.
Exactly.
Play the long on the best walk.
Based upon that.
Play the long game, people. Play the long game. You don't want to be coast. You don't want to be on the water right now. Nah. You want to be on the water in 20 years.
It's a long game.
But Mommy, why can't we buy a house on the beach?
No.
By the time you're my age, you will have a beach house.
Beach is coming to us, baby. Just be on a cliff. That's all I ask of people is just be on a cliff. Make sure you separate.
Yeah, it'll be beachfront before you know it.
Oh, 100%. Mandy, tell us a little bit about what you're doing now. What's the role and what are you into?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So, hey, everyone, super delighted to be here with Will and Ryan. I work at ClickUp, which, if you're not familiar, is a product management software. It's all about productivity, and I'm sure I'm going to get into this later, but it's really about saving time and using that time on the things that matter. And that's something that means a lot to me personally, professionally, and it's transformed my career in a nutshell. But in terms of what I'm doing right now, I am chief of staff to our people function. And that's a fancy way of saying, essentially, I am the right-hand person to our chief people and legal officer. I directly oversee our talent dev or our learning and development function and our internal comms function. And I indirectly oversee all of the other functions of people and legal. So total rewards, people ops, systems, talent acquisition, you name it. And the miscellaneous fires that are the spice of life, right? Yeah.
So what are you doing Monday through Friday?
The question is, what am I not doing Monday through Friday?
I like how she just said, and all the other functions. Yeah.
You asked about all of my life, and we're going to talk about that.
Yeah. The only thing that made me cringe there was you said legal.
Well, that's the compliance piece.
Hey, well,
Employment
I
law.
will say, keep your friends closer and your enemies closer. And so it's not to say that legal are going to be your enemies, but, it's pretty good to have a lawyer in your corner.
Yeah,
So,
that's
Well,
true. I guess that is true.
in California, employment law is by far, it ain't even close to the rest of the country. It is so
Half the things
complicated.
we report on is California this, California that.
Well,
Yeah.
it's because they're more progressive. So first of all, it's a good thing, not a bad thing.
No,
But
correct.
it is so different than the rest of the country. Actually, SHRM was HRCI years ago. You could get your SPHR, and they had a special test for people that are in California because you had to get because it was different. Like you could do it in Texas, you could do it in California. California's they're just. I mean, you've got to be literate in employment law in California.
yeah.
So it's also true if you're not just headquartered, but if you have employees in California. Anyhow, so Mandy, that sounds. First of all, how'd you get there? Like, how'd you get that job?
It is a journey. So do you want me to go all the way back to high school? Or
No,
start more locally?
No, just let's do this.
Thinking like 8th grade,
Yeah.
We've been back
what did you
my
learn
day.
in 8th grade? No. ClickUp is.
Let's-
It all started with a field trip. Sorry, go ahead, Ryan.
ClickUp is a cool company.
It is.
Like I've never been inside or anything, but just the branding, the messaging, like it's just super fun, light, and I like it. So
It's about
not sure if it had
innovation.
anything to do with it, but good job.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. It goes. I've been there for a little over 3.5 years now. And so, as a quick recap on the company history, started back in 2017, but it took some time incubating and growing bigger.
yeah.
And so, by the time I joined, it was November of 2020. It was functionally maybe a 60-person company. I was a COVID hire, yes. It was a functionally 60-person company, but on paper, I was employee 110, which for my Pokemon and nerd fans, either in this room or listening to this podcast, I'm wheezing. Do with that information
Nice.
as well.
I
Nice,
have
right?
no clue what that means.
Well, you can't have lunch with Will and I. It sounds like,
No,
right?
sounds like. Sorry. It's okay.
Yeah, we can get into
What was the
I'm a
title?
movie buff. I watch a lot of great movies, so we can get into it.
What was the role that you came into? Was it this role?
No, it was a totally different role. So I was a COVID hire. It was a small company, like I was saying, and at the time I was a director of education, totally different sector. We'll get into that later. But when I decided to apply to ClickUp, it was a very horizontal company. It didn't have a lot of formal departments, and so there were 3 departments, as it were, and they were hiring, and it was customer support, or support more broadly, marketing, and sales. And I don't even think that there were, the formalized roles and titles yet. It was customer support rep, marketing rep, sales rep, and the talk track was, hey, we don't care about degrees, we don't care about experience, we don't care about, whatever, other companies might care. If you have passion and if you have potential and if you see a problem and you're willing to have the extreme ownership and the care and the ability to learn and build something, you're going to do it here regardless of where you start. And I really internalized that. There's a really cool background story to that. We can get into that later, but I ultimately applied and it was for the customer support rep, and I spent around 3 months on the line or on a frontline line, I guess. And my friends and family thought I was nuts for making the leap that I did. They were very kind. They weren't mean about it, but they were like, you're going backwards in your career. You're starting over. And I just thought, life is all about choices. And so if this is the wrong choice, I'm just going to make another choice. That's okay. But I'm going to regret if I don't make this choice. And so I spent 3 months frontline representative, got promoted to customer support lead, where it's almost like a pseudo manager role back then. So I had a team of frontline reps that I would manage, advise, mentor, etc. And I very quickly started building things that the company had never seen before, but I knew using my previous experience and my ability of being on the line and really listening to customers and the agents and management in terms of what was needed.
Whether you're a payroll pro or an employee wanting to understand your paycheck better, we've got you covered. Tune into It's About Payroll for expert insights on payroll trends and compliance, or check out It's About Your Paycheck, the go-to podcast for employees looking to understand their pay and rights. 2 great shows, 2 great hosts. Listen now, brought to you by WRKdefined, where payroll meets clarity.
And I built what was then called our support training, our support quality excellence, or like quality assurance team, and our knowledge management team. And fast forward, they're still, contributing really successful teams at ClickUp today. I don't directly oversee them anymore because it got to the point where they had matured and evolved and I could hand them off to someone. And I had jumped around at the company, again, very long story, until I landed in the people team, and I was able to directly manage our talent development team, which I still do, to the point where I became the strategic advisor to our chief of people and legal, and the various other duties as assigned that you get at that type of a level.
So we got to go back now. Let's
now
go
we
back.
have to start.
We got to go back. Let's go back.
So you set the stage.
Yeah. Where'd you grow up? Did you grow up in California?
I grew up in California, yeah. So my parents are actually immigrants. They were born and raised in Egypt, and then they came over. They, planted their flag in Los Angeles, California. And so I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, if you're familiar.
Yeah.
Some people from LA don't consider it, but it is on LA County, folks. So keep that in your pocket.
Back off.
Back off. I have my LA card. And so I spent, the vast majority of my life there. I went to school at UCLA, so continued to stay in the area. And for the longest time, I, thought I was going to be a teacher. And it all depends how far back we want to go, right? But it all started with this sense of, this immigrant background that I came from. There was not a lot of, openness, let's say, in terms of being vulnerable and sharing your emotions or talking about mental health. And what that could result into was people not feeling seen or feeling like they could be their authentic self. And so as a young kid, you don't have that vocabulary, right? You don't know how to articulate that. But I came from a family that had some teachers or some educators in it. And so at that age, I internalized those thoughts, those feelings, that purpose or that North Star into, I want to become a teacher. And so I did end up becoming a teacher. I'll be really honest with this group.
Oh, God bless you.
Well, don't God bless me yet. I learned.
It's like a week long. She's just like.
So here's what happened. I realized that I didn't
like.
When
starts off with, "Here's what happened."
Yeah, so
this
here's
is so
what
great.
happened, folks.
What had happened? What had happened? So, what grades? First of all, what grades did you go? What were you roped into?
I've done first, I've done third, and then this is fast forwarding later in my life, but I was getting a master's in higher education leadership. So this is coming later on in my story.
Right.
But as part of the program that I was doing in San Diego, they actually gave you the opportunity to study abroad and help, with some educational systems abroad. So I did basically the equivalence of first grade, I would say, in South Africa. So I've done quite a bit. I've seen a lot, and there's no disrespect to anyone's kid that I've taught. God bless you all. But I learned that kids that I'm not blood related to, they're not for me. So what wasn't in my future to be in that K through 12 system for long. But I still really believed, I still do, but at that time especially, education, that is the epicenter of making positive change and impact in the world. And so I transferred my skills at the collegiate level. And so I started to work at universities in the United States, mostly in California, public, private, various sizes, various affiliations, you name it. And
what was the role?
Yeah, so I did kind of something similar to what I'm doing now in my career. I guess I've always had this tendency. I did a little bit of everything. And in your university, that makes you a really powerful, versatile player if you can understand different perspectives and needs. So I started as an academic advisor. I led what was called the GRIT peer coaching program, which is essentially peer coaching for impacted populations at the collegiate level. So former foster youth, previously incarcerated folks, veterans, you name it. So I worked through that. I worked at wellness centers as a program manager. And then and I'm sure a few more things. I did everything under the sun for the 6-7 years I was in it. But my last role in higher education was as a residence director. So for folks that might not be familiar with how university systems work in the United States, a lot of four-year universities have this format where students can opt to live on or proximal to campus. And so the residence director is the person who is in charge of the building maintenance, the building programming, so like the pizza nights and the team building and the what have you. You manage student staff, you manage adults, like you manage graduate students or full-time employees, and you're a crisis responder. So you are truly doing everything under the sun. And that was, for when I was in education, that was a really exciting moment for me, because I got to touch so many different aspects of not only the student journey, but students who maybe this was their first job ever, and got to touch into that leadership and that mentorship and that concept of this is the impact that you make in the world. And it doesn't always have to be at that macro level that people think about in terms of you need to be a politician or whatever, and we won't even go into that. But at that micro level, in terms of if you impact just this one person, it can have this huge ripple effect, and that meant so much to me at the time.
I feel like there's this theme that's developing that it's not really, and destroy it if I'm wrong, but it's kind of what I'm feeling. Sure. It's not about being the teacher or the educator in the classroom and saying, here's how you learn math and here's what you need to do step by step. It almost feels like you have a history from childhood all the way up, 8th grade, whatever we're starting at, of guiding people, just understanding, hearing them, guiding them to the next step, but not actually wanting to make them take the next step. Just let's get them to a place. Yeah. Let's hear them and say, here's an option for you, and kind of making sense of all of that. I feel like that's kind of been the trajectory throughout the entire career.
I would totally agree with that. And I think this was explained to me a long time ago, and I really like the visual that it creates. In life, there will be opportunities where you lead people by walking in front of them, or you empower them and you're walking behind them as that safety net or that person that they can turn back to. But the most powerful way to be is to be walking exactly right beside them. And so you're standing shoulder to shoulder, and yes, you are there with them through it, but you are equals. There's no ego. There's no hidden fear that they're going to fail and I have to be there. You are truly in it, and you're able to give that person the time and space to elevate themselves, but rise above you, to focus on that impact rather than focusing on the players or the perceptions or the what have you. And to your point, that is really what guides me in terms of like that North Star that I had mentioned. What was early on I want to do right by people has really evolved for me into I want to put my head down, I want to do great work, and I want to do right by people. And so it's that marriage between the work ethic that goes into building the foundation of trust that, people will allow you to walk beside them, or that you even get to that point yourself where you take that imposter syndrome or that fear or that doubt and say, shove it. This is human, right? I want to validate that, but you don't have a place right now in terms of standing between me and the impact that I want to make in this world. And that's really where you get to that point of walking side by side with people.
It seems like you like a challenge too, to Ryan's point, but also some of the subtext going K to 12, and then pivoting to university, doing that for a number of years, and then pivoting. It seems like there's no moss growing on this stone, right? Because you're going to keep moving, keep pushing, keep growing, etc. Where does that, if I have that right, where does that come from?
Oh, now we're going to go really far back. I'll answer this in two parts. So
sure.
Part of it is really how I was raised, and I owe so much of it to my parents. So like I mentioned before, immigrant parents, immigrant background, and my dad truly has the most American dream. I'm not making this up. Fact check this after. He immigrated from Egypt on literal borrowed money. For those of you who might not know, the currency of Egypt is called the guinea. And I don't actually know what the current conversion ratio is, but it's nothing compared to the US dollar. It's
right.
extremely weak, right?
Right.
And so at the time, let's say it was 25-1, hypothetically, right? And so he came with this borrowed money that equated to almost nothing in terms of US dollars. And he came with this dream to prove to his family, which in Egypt, the majority of them had become doctors or,
Right.
even what we in these states, we would call really highly reputed fields. And he knew that he wanted to own his own business, and he wanted to prove that ambition didn't make him the dumb one or the lazy one or what have you. So he came, he bought a car that could not run so he could sleep in it. He bought a bike to drive or to ride himself, I guess, to work. And he got three jobs at 3 different gas stations, and he worked as much overtime as he could to make as much money as he could until he bought his own gas station. And he didn't stop there. It's not like he said, oh, the dream is complete. He kept doing that and living frugally and wisely and working hard until he was able to end up with 13 gas stations. And probably the most remarkable thing about my dad is not even that side of the story, though it's unheard of. Like I'm actually getting a little choked up as I'm sharing it right now, is that he never forgot where he came from and his role in paying it forward. And so he would hire people that just immigrated to the States or people that, needed something. And he became, like, I hate saying it in this context because it's so loaded now, but I don't mean this in the same way from way back when. These people became like family to us. We would be invited to their weddings. We would be invited to the birth or the birthdays of their children.
Yep.
They saw my dad as someone who was really human beyond being this very successful man. And I really internalized that in terms of, if I'm not growing, if I'm not making an impact, I'm not using my time correctly. And so there's so much to the ClickUp story. It's a fun one. I'll give that to you all at some point. But ClickUp's mission just super resonated with me in terms of the saving you a day a week is one of our slogans, but saving you time in general, and then using that time on the things that matter. That's my whole bread and butter. If I'm not using my time well, and that can include decompression and relaxing, right? We're not robots. But if I'm not using it well, I'm wasting
that's a part of using your time well.
Right.
Is
exactly.
actually those
you need
things.
To recharge it. Yeah.
Sorry.
But that drive you got, or your upbringing with your father, when you went to ClickUp and you went through that experience, that process, and learned about ClickUp, that is what sealed it for you.
A message from McAfee. Wondering why the post office is texting you, or why you owe thousands of dollars in toll fees? Because someone's trying to scam you. The good news? McAfee can help. With McAfee's award-winning scam detection, it's easy to tell what's real and what's fake over text, in your inbox, and online. If they're
You want a free gift.
Seriously? If they're faking it, they're not making it past us. Get award-winning scam detection today. McAfee.com/keepitreal.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Between two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN, you try to be in control of how your info is protected. But many other places also have it, and they might not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast for 40% off. Terms apply.
So it sealed it for me. And so I'm a believer personally that, things happen for a reason, or life works in mysterious ways, even if you don't recognize it. Like, I'll fully acknowledge that things will happen and it really sucks and it's painful. And I'm not telling people or myself even to blindly just say this is fine. There's the human grief or processing that happens. But it was serendipity what happened with ClickUp. So I was still working at the university level at the time. This would have been in 2017, 2018, let's say, and ClickUp was founded in 2017, like I was saying. And so very early on in its life cycle, that's all I'll say on this recorded call. And I was volunteering at this nonprofit that they were called Rumi. So they were making free micro learning courses for learners around the globe. And I thought the mission was really cool, and I wanted to help and all of that. And at the same time, I wanted to expose myself more to the ed tech world. I was curious. I was itching to learn more and for growth, to both of your points. And once I was there for around 6 months or so, I got bold enough to say, why are we using ClickUp exactly? This is such a new player. What drew you to them? And so they told me, well, hey, the CEO, the COO, the I don't even remember what the title was at the time, but the chief marketing officer, they respond personally to our emails. They've given us a steal of a deal because they believe in the work that we're doing. They ask for our feedback. They implement it as real features, and they make us feel seen. They make us feel like we're making an impact in the world. And I knew in that moment, as cheesy as this sounds, I promise it's a true story. I knew in that moment that if I ever got bold enough to leave education and move into tech, I wanted to find somewhere that made people feel like ClickUp made those people feel. And so fast forward 2020, it's COVID. We're all a little aimless. I had some personal stuff going on, and I thought, okay, I'm going to make the jump. And it, again, was serendipity that I thought of ClickUp itself. And I thought, let me see if they're hiring. Let me see if they're, they're taking people on. And like I was mentioning towards the top of this call, they didn't have a lot of titling or definition in the roles yet. There weren't formal departments. And so I was a director
in chaotic mode.
Yeah.
Well, but you said that was purposeful. Like that was not by accident.
Yeah.
That they did that.
There's this sense of innovation and growing and letting people build that was part of the ethos of ClickUp. Still is, but very much in the earlier days of ClickUp. But I was a director equivalent in education at the time. And so I have very kind friends and family. I don't want to say that they were mean to me about this in any way, shape, or form, but it was this really big, like, are you sure? Like this you've worked so hard. Exactly. You've worked so hard. What are you doing? You're starting over. You've wasted time, or you're wasting time more or less, because it's so salient to me, that concept. And I just knew, like, I'm going to regret not trying this more than staying and trying to progress or impact where I was. And I'm so glad I did, because that led to so much personal growth for me, but also being able to, for lack of a better way, like, leave your fingerprints on such a growing, to both of your points earlier, really cool, really innovative company and space that's so special from both a micro and a macro level. And I've had the ability to meet really cool people, learn really cool people, talk to our customers. I'm not on a customer facing team anymore, but I'm still very much a go-to internally when people, want me to hop on a call with a customer or share a use case that I personally developed years ago, or I built on the spot the night before for that customer. Like, I love that, because I love getting to know people and just truly listening. Where are they? What do they need? What can I learn from them? And it opens you up to so much beauty in the world.
I love this. I want to go back to your dad for just 1 second.
Sure. Yeah.
Did he meet your mom here, or did
they met in the States? Yep, in California.
They met in the States. Parallel to that is there a strong Egyptian community in a way?
I would say Los Angeles does have a by relativity standpoint a larger Egyptian community. It's still relatively small. But most of the times when folks immigrate from the States, they, settle into the Coptic church, if that is the religion that you end up practicing. And it becomes the social club of meeting Egyptians. And so that's how they were able to make networks and find people beyond through my dad's work and hiring people in those capacities.
Oh, yeah. I could see that.
So following the story of your father, you've seen him grow a business. You've seen him, which I think is a phenomenal story, by the way. The fact that he bought a car to sleep in and bought a bike to get to work, his three jobs. I don't even know that I would think about that. Like, why would I get a car that's an amazing story. And I'm going to remember that forever now. That's just ingrained in me to step a process out that way. Have you ever had the urge to jump into entrepreneurship? Or when you saw, or maybe he drove you away from it, or when you saw ClickUp was that, like, I'm not an entrepreneur, but this is where my father would have been, or this is the next best thing for me. I feel like there's a connection there.
Yeah, candidly, it's evolved with me over the years. When I was younger, I did not want to be an entrepreneur. I just didn't see the impact in the same way that I see it now as an adult.
Optimize your business with a Workforce AI Edge powered by Visier. Make smarter decisions and achieve better outcomes with real-time AI insights delivered to every people leader. Explore more at visier.com.
Now ClickUp, don't put me on record here.
Hold on,
But
we'll
no,
beat you out.
Yeah.
Mandy has left the chat. No, I think about entrepreneurship still to this day, and I've actually dabbled. I've probably given you the impression at this point that I like to stay busy. I always like to be learning. I like to be doing many things. So I'm still a certified life coach. I don't practice as much anymore, but I used to have my own side hustle and business in regards to that. This is another COVID story. I was bored truly one day, and so I got my license to sell life insurance to folks. Gave me
Nice.
it's expired, so I can't help anyone anymore. But it gave me, an even deeper empathy for sellers, but also customers in terms of what they're thinking about, what they need. And so touching on those things, and also the natural, evolutions that come with age, and when you're reflecting about impact and time and life and what's next, I'm not opposed to stepping out as an entrepreneur or, starting a business, whatever that might be. But my whole thing is move quickly, but don't rush. And so for me, where I'm at right now, I don't have that pull to leave and start something of my own. I can tell it's there. I can tell the seed is starting to blossom, right? But the time doesn't feel right, and I'm going to let that happen naturally when it does.
I love it. Okay, a couple questions. One is advice you'd give your younger self. So now, all this experience you've accumulated, what would you tell your, let's say, 18-year-old self?
Yeah, I actually haven't gotten asked this question in a while, but fun fact, I won a scholarship award in college for the way that I answered this question. So let's see if it holds up.
Oh, well, this is an unfair question then. It's pre-scripted.
No, it's pre-memorized is what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Truly what it is, though, is be the person you needed when you were younger. That's how I would respond to it. So for me, again, I cannot underscore enough. I had phenomenal parents. They are my role models to this day. Again, I'm getting a little choked up as I think about it. And at the same time, there is the natural tug and pull that comes with we're not perfect. Human beings aren't perfect. And so going back to that sense of seeing people, sitting with them, the acceptance or awareness of mental illness and the role that it can play with family or friends or even, oneself, that's something that I had to learn by the opposite or, by... I don't know how to frame this, almost like what I wanted to do instead of what I was seeing. And so it's just understanding that people are complex and what you learn is complex. I don't think that we exist in this, this is good, this is bad type of a situation with people, with circumstances, what have you. It's what you make of those circumstances or choices or the way that you think. And I think it's telling myself that it's okay. It's okay to feel conflicted, or it's okay to make a choice that is totally deviating from the choice you thought you were going to make before. As long as you're able to take a step forward, one step, it doesn't matter what direction it's in. It doesn't matter if it's a small step or a big step. If you're able to keep that movement and you're the one keeping that sense of control and agency, you're going to unlock any path for yourself.
So let's talk on the complexity side. You mentioned that word a couple of times. And a lot of what you've done throughout your career has been taking complex situations, whether you were an RD or in the administration somewhere, or even now today what you're doing, and kind of oversimplifying things for people and kind of walking with them along that path. For someone that is maybe taking a similar journey or is listening that says, I like to solve the problem of complexity, regardless of what it is, what would your advice be to them on how to approach complexity and then how to translate that to other people?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I totally agree. I think that's one of my superpowers, and it's something that I'm proud about that I've been able to translate. So there are a few different parts to this. I think one of them is recognizing the role that expertise fits in when it comes to the problem. So oftentimes, especially like speaking from my background, which is educators, even nonprofit, if we want to expand it out wider, there's this tendency, real or perceived, to, the more credentials you have, the more experience you have, the more you look good on paper, the more valuable your opinions are. And so there's this overinflated tendency to credentialize yourself to the point of therefore I am the voice of truth, nothing else matters.
Right.
And I will tell you right now, no matter where you are, it's unsuccessful, right? Unless maybe you're a doctor, right? I do want my doctor to know what they're doing when
I
they're
want to see a lot of
working.
letters behind my doctor's
Turns
order.
out.
Right?
Turns
Yeah,
out.
I want them to be pretty skilled. But when you're solving a problem, regardless of what industry you're in, there's this mix of understanding, hey, I have expertise and that expertise exists for a reason, but it's being able to leverage that expertise strategically and skillfully. And that's really where it ties into that simplification. And so when you think about the audience or the person you're trying to convince or the customer you're trying to sell to or whatever your use case is, it's thinking about, well, what's in it for them? Because what's in it for me doesn't matter anymore. That's not important. If that motivates you, great. You found your motivation. But the true problem that you're solving is, how can I make this better for the audience that I'm trying to reach? How can I convey to them the value and impact, especially if I need their buy-in along the way? And Ryan, to your point and observation, I totally agree. Education has a really good job, even though they don't instill you in that explicit understanding of making complex things simpler and being able to tell people, this is the amount of work required. Yes, but here's what you stand to gain, and this is what's needed, and this is how we can get there, and really piecemealing it out. And that's why you see so many educators or former educators becoming program managers, because there is such a transferable skill in being able to understand what goes in from point A to point Z and delivering that value and that story along the way. So underutilized.
So you brought up credentialing and experience. I want to get your take on skills and the way that maybe you looked at skills, 10 years ago, and the way that you look at skills now.
Yeah.
And even from a company perspective, again, your take on skills is important to me, and how you're rethinking skills as opposed to what you thought of it, years ago.
Yeah, I'll start by saying that skills exist to be developed, and they exist to grow. And so if I'm thinking back on where I started, where it was in this very education, formal, for lack of a better word, paper type of skill developing, I had a very myopic view in terms of, you need X degree or X certification, or this is how you get exposure to XYZ field. And so it was that same principle of skills can grow, and you can develop and go in different directions, but it had this very you need to be guided in a certain way to receive those skills. And unfortunately, especially in this country, there are a lot of cost barriers that come with that type of approach to skill development. And so when I started to get that itch of, hey, I don't need to be in education to make this impact, or there are ways that I can even develop that are not tied to a university degree, like becoming a consultant or volunteering at that nonprofit that I was mentioning to you, I began to realize that skill development is all about the opportunities you pursue and what you do with those opportunities that you are given. And I think the first element is more intuitive to people because it goes hand in hand with that more traditional, you go to university, you get this certification, skill obtained, right? But it's actually the opportunities that you are given that you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know what problem you're going to be asked to solve, but it's how you choose to apply your time and your energy and how you solve the problem. Do you use the resources around you? Do you give up in the face of it, right? That's really where skills develop so much. And I hate to call it on-the-job learning because that has its own connotation now too, but there's really an underutilized psychology around what you can do with the opportunities that you are given, rather than solely looking at skill development as something that happens after work or something you have to pursue on the side. You can, but you don't have to. And I firmly believe that skills can be developed no matter where you are if you put the intentionality in it.
How does someone build mentorship or surround themselves with strong mentors like yourself, for example, where, I come out of school, maybe I've got 5 years, 10 to 15 years of experience. Doesn't matter. I have a whole bunch of skills that I've accumulated, but I don't know how to apply them or grow them without institutionally going back to school to learn.
Yes. It's linear.
Right? Yeah, exactly. But I don't know how to apply it and then transfer it. Like you said, teachers can become programmers or program managers.
managers.
Yeah.
You can also become programmers, though. I've known a few teachers.
They could, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So how does somebody build that circle of trust, right? Where it's where they can learn to transfer their skills and kind of be guided into that next step in their career.
Yeah, totally. We actually made a joke around this before we kicked off the recording of this podcast, but I'm not a huge fan of the networking that you often hear about in the industry. It's going to happen. It's going to happen over time. But my biggest piece of advice and how I've found the mentors, especially, I didn't know anyone in tech meaningfully before I transitioned. I made that path for myself and I made those relationships, and I did it in two main ways. One was I sought the application points. And so I brought it up before, but I found this nonprofit. It was that middle ground between the skills that I currently had or the skills that I needed to modify slightly or, within the realm of possibility, self-driven possibility, and skills that I had never been exposed to or a background that I had never been exposed to. And, marrying those two together and thinking, what impact can I make? How can I learn from people? And candidly, people love talking about themselves. So you'll never have a problem when you ask someone about themselves if you already have that human connection. And so oftentimes when people think of networking and the grimacy way of networking, it's cold calling in the same way that sellers might cold call or I had to cold call when I was selling life insurance briefly, right? And it's that lack of human connection that is maybe harder for some of us than others that makes it so icky and grimacing because you feel like it's performative or you feel like you're going through the motions. And that's why it never really stood out to me. But if you're able to find commonality with people, whether it's commonality in the impact you want to make or commonality in developing and honing your skills, they're not going to stop talking to you. And once you get into that habit of finding those points of application or impact, it multiplies. So for me, I have a very serendipitous path relative to maybe other people's experience, but I truly would have never found ClickUp. I mean, who knows, but I probably would have never found ClickUp had I not volunteered at that nonprofit. And I felt comfortable enough with the people that I was working alongside to ask, what the heck is up with this ClickUp thing? And that led me to where I am today. And that can happen with anyone, anything, any industry.
Well, one quick follow-up to that. Are you a bigger believer in intent, learning with intent, or just go into it and let's see what happens? And I feel like you've done this with intent and you've made choices based on this, but I think some people struggle with it. I've struggled with it. Do I just do it just to do it, or do I sit down and map it out?
He definitely struggles with it.
It's a hard question, and I actually haven't. I haven't thought about it as being mutually exclusive, so I might need to think on this one. But my gut instinct to the question that you're posing, I don't know if either of you are familiar with Amy Poehler, who I love, big Parks and Rec fan. But in her book, I think it's Yes, Please, if I'm remembering correctly, she talks about there are going to be opportunities in your life where you're going to be thrown a challenge, you're going to be thrown an opportunity, and you're going to have that initial sense of fear or doubt or challenge. And oftentimes, not all the time, but oftentimes the response to have is, yes, please. And there's also some improv techniques in terms of throwing a problem. And instead of saying, this is actually really big for anyone who's transitioning fields, and it's something that I attribute a lot of my success to, rather than saying no to anyone point blank, which in HR specifically, you can very quickly become the no police in a lot of people's perceptions. The way that you avoid that is not by saying yes to things that you shouldn't be saying yes to, right? But you begin to adopt this mindset of, yes, I hear you, and here's a better way that we can accomplish it. And you're truly positioning yourself as that strategic stakeholder who is listening to what they have to say. And so going back to your question, Ryan, this might be a cop-out answer, but I feel like it's a little bit of both, honestly. There are going to be opportunities in life that you would have never guessed or anticipated, and saying yes is a choice you make, and it's often one that will open a lot of doors. But if you're saying yes to things willy-nilly without thinking about it, you might be wandering aimlessly. So my medium answer might be a little bit of both, but as you're making those, yes, please steps, stop and evaluate and ask, is this choice contributing to my North Star? If it's not, that's okay. You just have to make a different choice.
Drops mic, walks off stage. Mandy, thank thank you so much for being on the show.
You're very welcome.
And educating us and educating our audience. It's been a privilege.
It's been a pleasure, and I did not anticipate telling my dad or my family's story.
There you go.
For listening and letting me tell it.
That's what we do. We draw it out. That's our job. But thank you. Seriously, thank you for coming on the show.